Welcome to our video on how to become financially independent, inspired by the wisdom of Jim Rohn. In this video, you'll learn the secrets to living off the income from your personal resources, building a solid financial plan, and creating a balance between modest and extravagant living. Let's dive in and embark on your journey to financial freedom.
How to become financially independent. So now let me give you my definition of financial independence. My definition is the ability to live from the income of your personal resources. The ability to live from the income of your personal resources. Meaning, at that point, you wouldn't have to work, that is to make a living, or work to earn money, because now you have enough income from your personal resources. You would then simply work for accomplishment, you would work for pleasure, you would work for joy, you would work for whatever. But from that point on, once you became financially independent, you wouldn't have to work anymore in terms of supporting yourself, in terms of like making a living. So that is a heritage for all Americans, that you can become someday financially independent and live from the income of your personal resources. Now, here's the next question. How do you wish to live? There's a difference between modestly and extravagantly. If you wish to live extravagantly from the income of your personal resources, you'd have to have a lot more personal resource. But if you wanted to live modestly, and if that life would suit you, modest in terms of what it would require to, support your daily living. If that was fairly modest, not the ambition of your goals, but modest in terms of the money you would require to live comfortably, it doesn't take that much personal resources. I mean, it doesn't take $100 million, it doesn't take $50 million, it doesn't take multiplying $1 million, let's say at 12%, it's $120,000 a year. You could live fairly well on $120,000 a year, even after paying taxes. But it depends on how you wish to live. It depends on your own personal lifestyle. Now, if you need a mansion in every major city in the world, it's going to take more personal resources, right? If you need a jet and a chauffeur and a limousine and, this whole concept. But to be free of anybody to have financial claim on you, and to be free to live, in a fairly easy manner, all you need is a certain amount of personal resources to be able to live from the income of those resources. Here's what we call that, whatever those dimensions are: financial independence. Now, here's one more exciting thing. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Beyond that to be exciting, and that is debt-free. To where no one has a claim on your personal resources. And these are all interesting concepts. So let's go down through a list of, things to jog our memory here. We talked about this earlier. Economics is major. Putting together your economic plan. My mentor asked me for my financial plan when I was 25. Of course, I didn't have one. Just like a list of goals I didn't have. But a financial plan. Now, here's what's important. My mentor said it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan that counts. Because I offered him the excuse. I said, if I had more money, I'd have a better plan. He said, no, if you had a better plan, you'd have more money. I'd been working 6 years. And once in a while now, the creditors were calling. See, after 6 years, he suggested to me after 6 years of economic activity, I should be at least 1/3 of the way to building a financial wall around my family nothing could get through. And how far away was I from being 1/3 of the way? Like 1,000,000 miles. And he said, here's why you're where you are. Not because you haven't earned money, but because you haven't got a good plan. And the key is to not just live in the right country, but to have the right plan. So it's the plan that counts. Now here's what you do. You start with some plan and then refine it as you go. Or you refine it as your needs require, or you refine it as your dreams require. Some people need to make millions. Why? In order to satisfy their dreams. And some of those dreams can be benevolence. Mark Hughes of Herbalife, right? It's going to do what, $2 billion this year in sales? But I met him when he was 19, came to my seminar when he was 19. When he was a kid, he got hooked on drugs and managed to escape. At age 18, his mother died from a drug overdose. She was 36. When he was a teenager, he was so committed to helping other kids escape the drug habit that he became a fundraiser, and he became one of the best in the country. As a teenager, because he had escaped drugs, now he wanted to help other kids escape drugs. And he became one of the best. Guess who one of his participants was? Ronald Reagan. He's around knocking on doors. You know, and he said, hey, I might as well go to the rich area. And one of his large contributors to his program back when he was a kid was Ronald Reagan, right? Unique story yet to be told. Now, of course, Mark has become extremely wealthy. You know, he's building a $45 million home in Beverly Hills, which is fairly wealthy. But here's his big ambition, far more than the $45 million home, is year before last, he gave $8 million to a program called DARE, helping kids with drug problems. It's his passion to make more millions and more millions, so he'll have more millions to give to these projects. See, it just depends on what you want, how you want your life to unfold. But now, financial independence, being able to live from the income of your personal resources, that's a goal everybody should set. Now, if you're a little late coming to this plan, you know, you might have to, do a little more stretching than the average person would. But starting at age 15, it's easy to pencil out where with a normal average income and the increases every year to be financially independent by age 35, 40 at the latest, if you have a good plan. Now, the reason why the money all disappears is not because it doesn't exist. It's because the money isn't put in the right plan. So now let's talk about a few other things. One is some people have to wrestle with, and I had a few questions on, is it okay to strive to be rich? Is it okay to want to be wealthy? Is it okay to go for it? I had to come to grips with that. Some people say, well, it'd be better to renounce all worldly goods and just live a very poverty, spiritual life. And that's one concept. I've got another concept. Try this on for size. If you could do better, should you? That's an interesting concept to consider. Why would you leave the biggest share of your life unexplored in terms of personal development and what that might have achieved, either in the marketplace or at home as a father? Someone says, well, I'm not going for being rich. I don't think that's really the healthy thing to do. So everybody has to wrestle with that, and I understand that. But I think one conclusion we could come to, with a good, simple, practical plan, there's no reason why you can't accumulate the resources to be financially independent. So now let's talk about it. Here's how Shoaff introduced me to the concept. One is to develop a current financial statement. Now, this is primarily going to be a current financial statement of your finances, your money. Now, money is not the only value, but make this note, it is one value. It's not the only one, but it is one. Money is not the only measure of success, but it is one measure. It's not the only one, but it is one. We learned in the little ladder we drew yesterday that your current income is a measure of your personal value to the marketplace. If your current value to the marketplace is $5 an hour, you get the $5. So, not that a person is only worth $5, but their value to the marketplace is only worth $5. But it's possible to very quickly change those numbers by changing your value. But the numbers do illustrate the value. We cannot leave that concept out. So somebody says, you mean where I am financially is an illustration of who I am? And the answer is yes. Now, it's not the only measure. I'm not saying it's the only one, but I'm saying it is one. There's a lot of other ways to measure a person's value as a father, person's value as a mother, person's value as a friend, as a colleague, of course. But we can't leave the money out. Now, here's why money is an easy measure. It's easy to count. Say, how are you doing? Well, there's a lot of, things we could throw out there about how you're doing, And when we say financially, that's easy. Let's count. Say, wow, wow. So let's face the count. So my mentor said, let's come up with a financial statement. I said back then, what is a financial statement? I didn't know. So here's what he said. You take a piece of paper, draw a line down the center. Over here, you list all of your assets. Everything you can think of that you have that's got value. And then we add this up, the total. Whatever you've got. Your bicycle, I mean, whatever you got, put it on here, put some value on it. That's the total of your assets. Now over here's your liabilities, here's what you owe. And you make this list. So I started putting this together. I said, well, if I do this, it's not gonna look that good. He says, it doesn't matter how it looks, it matters whether or not you do it. He said, let's take a picture of where you are currently. As bad as it may be, or as good as it may be, let's take a picture after 6 years. Click. And these are called what? The facts. I mean, you can, throw around all the ethereal value. What about the value of being a mother? I mean, we're not going to go through that now. We're just talking about money, the facts on the money. So I thought, well, okay. He said, you don't have to publish this in the paper. This is just for you. So I started putting my liabilities, my parents that I'd borrowed money from, budget finance, the whole bit. And wow. Now assets. Now I am embarrassed. I even put my shoes on here. I mean, Salvation Army give you what? $4 for your shoes. Can you imagine the trauma I went through now, putting together my first financial statement after 6 years? And he said, if you would have taken this picture much earlier, you probably would have done something about it. So this is what you must affirm now. This is the truth. This is where you are. This is not everything in your life, but this is where you are financially. So then he said, we subtract assets, liabilities from assets, and we come up with current net worth. Now, it's not your total net worth now, I keep emphasizing. It's your net worth financially. And you can imagine my picture did not look very good. Now, here's what he said. Let's start changing this picture. And the change you want in the picture is what? For the asset values to start going up and these numbers to start coming down. And that starts increasing your net worth. Guess how quickly you can do this? Almost immediately. One is to quickly think of something that you didn't think of to put in the asset column. Let me explore my closet. Let me find something here with a little more value, make me look a little better. Whatever that is. Now, on the liability side, then we start working these numbers down. And he said, you cannot believe the excitement of almost daily changing your net worth. Daily changing your net worth. Every time you pay off one of your bills, you just do this. And you just get great excitement in paying your bills. And here's what I told him. I said, I hate to pay my bills. He said, why would you hate to do that? It decreases your liabilities. And I never thought about loving to pay my bills. He said, no, you got to get excited about paying your bills. And you got to practice something like this. The next time you pay $100 on an account, you put a little note in there and say, with great delight, I send you this $100. Because my assets are going up and my liabilities are going down. I'm on a new track. I'm never going the old way again. Somebody says, will $100 do that? And the answer is yes. So that you can begin to practice not only the new method, but the new attitude. Not just the new method, but the new attitude. And when you combine both the method and the attitude, you can get some incredible results. Number one, your self-esteem starts to go like this. It's unbelievable charting all this course. You've got to do this now. Put together your own current net worth, whatever the picture is. Don't need to show it to anybody. It's just for you and your information. Now let's come to what I teach kids. I'm trying to get this book written. Of course, kids should pay taxes. And in it is going to be this little philosophy here on money management. What should a child do with $1? Here's one comment. What difference does it make? It's only a child and it's only $1. Only a child and only $1? Where do you suppose someone's financial journey begins? A child with $1. That's where it starts. Now, what road is this child with $1 going to go down? It all depends. It depends on what they've been taught. It depends on what they've been taught, the disciplines of developing a plan for the future. It all depends which road this child chooses. And one of the great illustrations of choosing the wrong road is doing the wrong things with the early resources. So what difference does it make? Well, what if this child spends the whole $1? Let me give you a clue. That is the wrong road. You say, well, it's only a child and it's only $1. No. And if a child has $1, however he earned it, however he got it, you've got to say to the child, now don't spend the whole $1. They'll say, why not? It's my $1. I said, I know it's your $1. I earned it. I know you earned it, but you can't spend the whole $1. They'll say, why not? That opens the door for you to say, let me show you why not. Now underline this word, visual. Kids learn best by visual. So you take them to the other side of town and show them where people live that spend the whole $1. And you just drive them around and say, would you like to live here? Kid says, no. Say, would you like to live like these people live? Kid says, no. Then you can't spend the whole $1. I'm telling you, they will get the message. It only takes one visit. It's like crime. They had that little movie for a while called Scared Straight. Remember that? Way back, quite a few years ago, where they filmed the kids that went to the jail and talked to the man. And guess what the man said to the kid? You don't want to come here. Let me show you around. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. And some of these kids came out of the jail after talking to the men saying, here's one place we don't want to go. So visual, actual visual, is one of the best ways to help to illustrate kids. So take them to the other side of town. Now, if you already live there, just show them around. Because now this would be a good time for confession. Guess why we live on this side of town? Where did the money go? One father says, to be honest, I smoked a great deal of it. A lot of the money over the last 20 years went up in smoke. Good time for confession. Don't do what I did and wind up on this side of town. Let me show you a plan, my son, how to get to the other side of town. See, there's nothing better than the truth. You don't need to fool with the truth. It is so dynamic in uncovering the errors of our ways and helping us to set up new disciplines to change it all, starting today, starting overnight, starting anytime. Now, you could wait to start a plan for a couple of years, but why not do it now? So what should a child do with $1? Here's what I teach. Let's go through this quickly. Never spend more than 70 cents. Somebody says, why? Well, to make it easy, just take my word for it, right? You just don't spend more than 70 cents. You got to pick some number. When I met Shof on every $1, I was spending about 110%. And here's what I learned. If your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. I found that back then it was easy to make $4,000 a month and go broke. Somebody says, how could you make $4,000 a month and go broke? It's easy. Spend $5,000. And if you spend $5,000, it's what? Inevitable. That's a good word, inevitable. Sometimes it's inevitable. If you're in a little boat with no motor and no oars, 300 feet from Niagara Falls, it's over. It's already done. You just don't want to find yourself there in such a predicament. It's what we call inevitable, right? It's done, it's over. So, 70 cents. Pretty good number, especially for a child. Don't spend more than 70 cents out of each $1. They say, okay, I got that now. What do I do with the other 30 cents? I'm glad you asked. Here's what you do. 10 cents for charity. Helping people who can't help themselves, supporting worthy causes. Some church teach tithe, portion of, piece of, which is good. They say, give us the 10% and we'll administer it, but you got to take the tour now. Don't give the 10% unless you take the tour and let them show you where it goes. Then if you're happy and delighted with them administrating it and where it goes, then you give the 10%. Or you could administer the 10% yourself. You know, whatever your philosophy is on this. The time to teach kids generosity is early. And if you teach kids to share 10 cents out of every dollar and it starts early, I'm telling you, they'll do it forever. And 10 cents is kind of easy to give out of a dollar. If you got $1 million, it's a little more difficult to give 100,000. Someone says, oh, if I had $1 million, I'd give 100,000. I'm not that sure. We better start you early so that when the big money starts to roll, the system will already be in place. So 10 cents for charity. Now, here's another 10 cents called active capital, meaning put your money to work. Capitalism. And kids can learn to buy and sell. My old illustration way back on the old tapes was buy a bottle of soap for $2 and sell it for $3. Who can do that? Any kid can do that. Go next door, knock on the door. Ms. Jones, my mama uses this soap. I think you'll find it real interesting. It's only $3 a bottle. She says, well, Johnny, I've already got plenty of soap. He says, you better let me come in and check. Kids don't need a class on sales. They're born to sell. Better let me come in and check. Now, when a child collects $3 and sells this bottle of soap, what should they do? You got to teach them not to spend the whole $3. See, some adults don't know that. Kid says, well, yeah, if you spent the whole $3, you'd be out of business. That's right. You got to save back the $2. You've only got $1 now. The $2 have got to go get you another bottle of soap. So it's easy to teach these little principles. Profits are better than wages. Wages make you a living, profits make you a fortune. This is what I taught in Russia, in Moscow, to 8,000 the first class. Incredible. Active capital means buy, sell, or sell, buy. It depends on your circumstances. If you have to sell, buy, you sell, buy. If you can do it, then you buy, sell. Or whatever way to, earn a profit. I teach kids right. 2 bicycles, got to have 2 bicycles, one to ride and one to rent. Anything to generate a profit, render a service, whatever it is, something simple and easy. But kids will come up with all kinds of ideas. All you got to do is get them started, how to make a profit. They know this deal. Active capital means you are involved. Now, here's the last 10 cents called passive capital, meaning let someone else use your money. Let a financial institution use your money. Some projects require more money than one person can put up. So we have what we call collective pools of money, where you put up some, I put up some, someone else put up some, and we loan it out. And here's what they pay us for using our money. They pay us interest and dividends and increase in stock value. This is the potential here. Putting up your money. But now, if you follow this starting at age 15 and allocate the dollar this way, rather than having no plan at all, it's easy to become financially independent by the time you're 35, at the latest 40, allowing for some unforeseen circumstances. Now, why wouldn't a kid go for that? I'm telling you, here's the only reason they wouldn't go for it. They never heard about it. If you teach kids the splendid joy of being rich, if you teach kids the unbelievable power of being financially independent, if you teach them the unbelievable feeling of being capable, of having skills, of having influence, of being somebody, they'll go for it. They will go for it. Now, if they don't go for that, they're going to substitute it with something else. Something else we really don't care for. Some other kind of high, rather than earning money, rather than being responsible, rather than the joy of giving service, rather than all these joys. They're probably going to go for something else. So we got to keep their minds busy with stuff like this. Figure out ways to get this money out there so that it earns you this. And find out some ways to start earning profits yourself. Now, you might not be able to start here 70, 10, 10, and 10. We're talking about kids now that, haven't got all these other liabilities and responsibilities. Maybe I've caught you at an unfortunate time, and for you to start this kind of a plan, you'd have to make this 70 probably 97%. And these what? 1, 1, and 1. And if that's where you have to start, that's okay, as long as you start with a better plan than you had yesterday. Now what's the goal? If you have to start at 97, 1, 1, and 1, the goal is for this number to start coming down and these numbers to start going up. And if you just start the plan, you'll see such progress almost immediately. The numbers that need to come down will start coming down. The others that need to go up will start going up. You'll start figuring out a way to make this whole thing work. It's unbelievable. This is now what I call the ideal. But sometimes you can't start at the ideal. You have to start somewhere and work toward the ideal. Now, once you start doing extremely well, you got to change this model. All right, some of the guys I know couldn't spend 70% of their income. That would be obscene. I probably spend what? I probably spend less than 10% of my income. So if this number for me has gone way, 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 way down, you can imagine these numbers have gone way, 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 way up. And you can't believe the thrill of watching your plan unfold. One, to start in a pretty tough position and get to the ideal, and then get to what we call the max, the summit kind of living, the view from the top, by finally arriving here, and then little by little arriving here to where this number comes down, down, down. This number goes way, way, way up, and these numbers go up, up, up. Now you've got resources to do all kinds of things, whatever you wish to do. This is what we call having a financial plan. Now, all I want to do is stimulate you with this plan. You can develop your own, you can change all these numbers, you can do whatever you want. Here's what I advise, you gotta have a plan. Here's what capital is. Capital is any value you set aside. And the easiest to identify is your money. Any value you set aside to be invested in an enterprise that brings value to the public with the hopes of making a profit. Any value you set aside to be invested in an enterprise that brings value to the public with the hopes of making a profit. Now, the reason why that was foreign to the Russians was because up until the fall of communism, making a profit was illegal. You couldn't go into business for yourself. You had to work for the all-knowing state. Everybody was employed by the state because the state owned all the resources. So you couldn't make a profit. Now, when I give this simple little analysis, the Russians go crazy. They said, well, we could have done that for the last 85 years. That's right. We could have built a dynamic society like America. That's right. But now you got to start setting aside some value to be invested in an enterprise that you're responsible for bringing value to the marketplace with the hope of making a profit. That's called capitalism. Now, here's what else I told them. Here's what you can set aside that's more important than money. Let me give you the list. Now, this money that you set aside is like seed corn for the farmer. What would you do with seed corn? Number one, protect it with a vengeance. Here's what you wouldn't do with it. Spend it. Here's what you wouldn't do with it. Give it away. You can't do that with your capital. You cannot be benevolent with your capital. With your profits, yes. With your capital, no. This is seed corn. Here's what you wouldn't do with your seed corn. Eat it. Because now you've got no crop come harvest. So you wouldn't spend it and you wouldn't lose it. And you wouldn't give it away and you wouldn't eat it. It's to be set aside and protected because it's the investment for the future. So you set aside this money, not to be spent, not to be given away for benevolence, not to be lost, but to be kept for the time when you invest it in an enterprise that brings value to the marketplace with the hopes of making a profit. And this enterprise bringing value to the marketplace with the hope of making a profit is just as simple as a child that buys a bottle of soap for $2 and sells it for $3. He brings value to the marketplace by taking this $2 of capital and going next door to Mrs. Jones and selling her a bottle of soap for $3. Now he's got $3, but $2 is capital still set aside to invest in the next bottle. That is capitalism. But here's what's exciting. It's not all there is to capitalism. Let me give you the rest of the list. Here's the rest of the list. Time is more valuable than capital. Time you set aside, not to be eaten, not to be wasted, not to be given away. Time you set aside to be invested in an enterprise that brings value to the marketplace with the hope of making a profit. Now we have capital money and we have capital time. How valuable is time? Time properly invested is worth a fortune. Time wasted is worth devastation. But it's worth a fortune if you invest it properly. My time invested these 2 days, I'm telling you, it's worth a fortune, not just in coin, but in resources for me for the future. Who knows what may come spinning out of these 2 days? I got stories you wouldn't believe in my files. Time invested can perform miracles. So you invest your time. Now, let me tell you the rest of the list. Lydia Colon invests $1 in her enterprise, selling a product she believed in. Here was her first investment, desperation. She says, my kids are hungry, I gotta make this work. If this doesn't work, what will I do? That's called great incentive. My friend Bill Bailey went to Chicago as a teenager after he got out of high school. And the first job he got was night janitor. Someone says, Bill, why would you settle for night janitor? He said, malnutrition. Right? You work at whatever you can possibly get when you get hungry, right? You go to work somewhere. Night janitor, don't matter where it is. Now he's rich and, he's financially independent, but first job, night janitor. So, what is a good investment? Desperation. I must. See, that's a powerful incentive, I must. Now here's the next investment she made. Determination, I will. I will find someone. First she said, I must find someone. Desperation. Second, she said, I will find someone before this first day is over. Sure enough, she found someone. She said, if it works once, it'll work again. But the next person said no. Next person said no. Now what must you invest? Courage. Courage is more valuable than money. If you've only got $1 and a lot of courage, I'm telling you, you got a good future ahead of you. Courage in spite of. Humans can do the most incredible things, no matter what happens. Tell us about it. Haven't we heard the stories? There's probably some recent ones from Kosovo that we haven't even heard yet, that are some of the most classic, unbelievable stories of being in the depths of hell and finally making it out. Humans, you can't sell humans short. Courage, in spite of, not because of, but in spite of. Now, once she's sold 3 or 4 and gotten going, here's what now takes over, ambition. Wow, if I can sell 3, I can sell 33. If I can sell 33, I can sell 103. Wow, now she's now dazzled by her own dreams of the future. Try this one on for size, faith. Now she begins to believe, I've got a good product. This is probably a good company. And she then starts to believe in herself. Lydia, single mother, 2 kids, no job. My gosh, I'm gonna pull it off. Her self-esteem starts to soar. These are investments that are unmatched. Money can't touch it. What if you had $1 million and no courage? You'd be poor. You wouldn't be rich. Now here's the next one. It's the reason why she's a millionaire today. Ingenuity. Putting your brains to work. Probably up until now, you've put about 1/10 of your brain power to work. What if you employed the other 9/10? You can't believe what can happen. Humans can come up with the most intriguing things to do. Ingenuity. What's ingenuity worth? A fortune. It's more valuable than money. All you need is $1 and plenty of ingenuity. Figuring out a way to make it work, make it work, make it work. Have a classic story to tell that'll stir the kids' minds for years to come. Next, heart and soul. I mean, what's a substitute for heart and soul? It ain't money. Money can't buy heart and soul. And heart and soul is more valuable than $1 million. $1 million without heart and soul, you have no life. You are ineffective. But heart and soul is like magic. It's what we call the unseen magic that moves people to buy, moves people to make decisions, moves people to act, moves people to respond. Heart and soul. Next, personality. You've just got to spruce up and sharpen up your own personality. You've got plenty of personality. Just get it developed to where it's effective every day. It's effective no matter who you talk to, whether it's a child or whether it's a business person, whether it's a rich person, poor person. A unique personality that is at home anywhere. My mentor Bailey taught me, you got to learn to be at home, Mr. Rohn, in a little shack in Kentucky, having a beer and watching the fights with Winfred, my old friend. And be just as comfortable there as you are in a Georgian mansion in Washington, D.C. at the senator's guest. Just as comfortable, move with ease, whether it's with the rich or whether it's with the poor. And it makes no difference to you who's rich or who's poor. A chance to have a unique relationship with whoever. That kind of personality that's comfortable, that kind of personality that's not bent out of shape. Here's the ultimate investment, charisma. Ultimate sophistication, charisma, with a touch of humility. All of that list is more valuable than money. With $1 and the list I just gave you, the world is yours. I mean, it belongs to you. Whatever piece of it you desire, whatever development you wish for your life, I've given you the secret. Capital, there is some kind of capital and there is some kind of capital. But here's what you can do with $1 and the rest of this investment of yourself and your person. You can secure your fortune. Key phrase, you lack not the resources. You don't lack the mental resources. You don't lack the financial resources. Here's the key to the $1. Depends on where you invest it. Depends on where you spend it. Buy a Coca-Cola or buy a brochure about a product you believe in and go tell the story. I mean, what are you going to do with this $1? You say, well, it's only $1. No, you don't understand. You can, if you wish, you can turn it instead of into a Coca-Cola, you could turn it into capital. And $1 turned into capital instead of a Coca-Cola, what's the difference? The difference is a fortune. The Coca-Cola is soon gone, but the fortune lasts forever. Everybody's got the money. It depends on where you put it. How much is a book on sophistication in the marketplace? Somebody says $25. That's too much for poor people. No, $25 is how many Pepsis? If you saved up the money of 25 Pepsis, could you buy a book on sophistication in the marketplace that can lead to fortune? The answer is yes. Everybody's got the money. Everybody's got the time. Everybody's got the imagination and the mental and the spiritual and the social resources. Everybody's got the stuff. It depends on how you use it and where you put it and where you invest it, how it turns out for you and for your life. That's the key. Ideas plus inspiration. Make the note, we need ideas for goals and plans to design our life for the future. Tomorrow we'll do the workshop, setting goals for the next 10 years. Ideas for plans to achieve those goals. But here's what else we need, inspiration. Emotional vitality. Without that, the ideas, won't progress very far. They may serve you to just get by, but I'm sure you haven't spent this kind of money and this kind of time to pick up ideas just to get by. But we want to be able to flourish. However, that is a human being's two major objectives. And you might make these notes. One is to survive. First, we must learn to survive. Second, then we learn to succeed, which is beyond survival. But most people settle in just in sort of the survival mode, enough to get by. They've got all these resources to tap, and they don't tap them because, they're getting by. Their kids aren't starving. They got a roof over their head and some clothes to wear and food to eat. But to go way beyond that, to flourish, not just to survive, but to flourish. I'm sure that's what all of us are here these 2 days for, to find more ideas on how to do that. Now, the idea part is fairly basic and upfront, right? We're going to talk about time management ideas. We're going to talk about leadership ideas. We're going to talk about good health ideas. We're going to talk about all kinds of ideas. And they're fairly easy to put forward. Here's what's a little more tricky: inspiration. Who knows why one's inspired and one is not inspired? Here's what I call it. It's a good thing to remember for the rest of your life. It's called the mysteries of the mind. And you'll be confronted with that forever, the mysteries. Here's what we have to do with most mysteries: leave them mysteries. And learn to be curious instead of dismayed. Say, why is it this way? Say, I don't know. You get your own planet, you could rearrange it some other way. On this planet, we seem to be guests. So you figure out how this one works, whoever set it up, right? We follow how it's been set up. Then if you get a chance for a planet, then you can rearrange the whole deal and say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So if you ever get that chance, you can do that. But hey, on this one, it was prearranged before we dropped in here. But on the spinning planet headed somewhere, right? What is the deal, right? And part of it is a mystery. One of the mysteries: where did we come from? Where are we going? Some of those are a bit unfathomable. We try our best to understand. One writer said, what? We see through the dark glass. We think we've just about got it figured out, but it's a little hazy. It's a little dark. We can't see it quite as clear. But all of our lifetime, we keep searching for ways to see it better, see it better. Someday, hopefully, it'll all be clear. But some things are mysteries. I do a seminar like this. Someone walks out and says, I'm going to change my life. Someone else walks out and says, oh, I've heard all this stuff before. Why two different reactions to the same seminar? Just make the note. It's a mystery. And I haven't tried to solve that. You say, well, I'm going to make everybody walk out and say, I'm going to change my life. See, no, you can't do that. It's going to be however it's going to be. And the key is to be curious and not dismayed. Let the mysteries be mysteries. Interesting story says the day the Christian church was started, a magnificent sermon was preached. And if you read the account of the sermon that was preached the first day the Christian church was started, it was a magnificent sermon. And it was a magnificent occasion. It said there was a multitude that heard this sermon, meaning what? A lot of people heard it. But there was an incredible variety of reaction to the people that heard the sermon. It said some that heard the sermon were perplexed. And I thought, wow, this looked like a pretty straightforward sermon to me. Why would anyone be perplexed? And here's the simple answer. They are the perplexed. I mean, if you try to figure that out, you go crazy. And here's what I learned to do. Leave the perplexed perplexed. You can't straighten this out. It said some that heard this great sermon laughed at the speaker and mocked, laughed and made fun of him. I'd say, well, hey, this guy looked pretty sincere to me. Why would anyone laugh and mock? And it's a simple answer. They are the laughers and the mockers. And there's nothing you can do about that. You can't straighten it out and you can't turn it around. You just have to let be whatever is and let it be rather mysterious, but learn to be curious and not dismayed. Then it said some that heard this sermon didn't know what was going on. And they're easy to spot. They're usually saying, what's going on, right? They don't know what's going on. Somebody says, well, they should know. Well, your shoulds and shouldn'ts ain't going to affect it. It's like saying the sun should come up in the west. Say, no, you got to leave this stuff alone. Just let the mysteries be mysteries and let what happens. Let that all be. So some were perplexed, some mocked and laughed, some didn't know what was going on. But here's the rest of the story. It said some that heard the sermon believed. And that's who the speaker was looking for, the believers mixed in this whole mysterious array of human reaction to the same presentation. And you've just got to let this whole mixture of reaction be a mixture of reaction. And you can't be dismayed by it. Otherwise, the only cure for it is to get your own planet. Otherwise, there is no cure. Because I used to try to straighten all this stuff out. In the beginning, I used to say, I'll make them successful if it kills me. I almost died, right? You can't do that. So, it said some believed. And that's who the speaker was looking for, the believers out of this massive audience of a multitude. Now, here's what was interesting. It said the number that believed was about 3,000. So it was a pretty good first day. So make the note. You can have a good day in spite of the mystery. In spite of the mystery of reaction, in spite of who's who, in spite of what happens, in spite of the full variety of human reaction and human behavior, in spite of the whole mix in each community, in each place, in each school, wherever, in spite of this whole mysterious mix of how things are and how humans react and how they behave, here's what you can have: a good day. 3,000 the first day. Wouldn't you call that a good day? 3,000. I've had some pretty good days, but not 3,000. Amazing. So, let the mysteries be mysteries. But inspiration, hopefully I've caught you at the right time where you'll be inspired to listen, inspired to take notes, and then inspired to give it a try. And this is all I ask after the seminar's finished. Just try some of this stuff. Some of the ideas I'm going to share with you the next 2 days. Just give it a try. You never know till you try, Papa said. See if it'll work for you. And then here's what's next. Refine it all as you go. First you learn, then you try, then you refine, then you evaluate, then you pass it on. Here's what else I hope you'll find these 2 days. Guidelines to translate response into results. I appreciate you responding by, coming to the seminar, responding by taking notes, responding by being here a couple of days. But here's the key, is to turn response into results. I appreciate applause, but applause is not the deal. For me, here's what's valuable, is to have this stuff work in someone's life, to have it make a difference in someone's income, have it make a difference in someone's financial future, have it make a difference in someone's health, measurable difference in someone's future and health. That's my game. And if I can give you something that'll help make a measurable difference as time passes, see, that's what's it for me. Key phrase, results, is the name of the game. I do another seminar called The 5 Major Pieces. It's also the title of a book, but here's those pieces. 1 is philosophy. We're affected by what we know. Next is attitude. We're affected by how we feel. 3rd is activity, or disciplines, or work. Labor, it's called. We're affected by what we do. And number 4 is results. Learn to measure and count to see how you're doing. Making progress is the name of the game. And here's how I describe it. Measurable progress in reasonable time. That's what we ask of our kids. That's what we ask of everybody. Make measurable progress in reasonable time. But results is the name of the game. We don't study philosophy just for philosophy, or attitude just for attitude, or discipline just for discipline. These things by themselves serve no purpose. But these 3 items invested in labor, in the work, produces results. Now we measure our results to see how our disciplines are working, how our attitude is working, and how our philosophy is working. And if the results aren't to your liking, there's only 3 places to check: discipline, attitude, philosophy, personal philosophy. It's a pretty simple process. Some people check interest rates. Well, but, that's not where the real problem probably is. Check what you know. You may need more knowledge. Check how you feel. You may need to adjust your attitude. And check your disciplines, and you may need to add a couple to the ones you're already engaged in. And that'll start immediately to changing the results that you can measure, that you can count. And you might add one more word here: weigh. Okay, weigh and count and measure. Because the game is productivity, progress and productivity. Then something we're going to talk about, which was number 5, which is lifestyle. Because here's the ultimate expression of life, and that's to live a good life. Living well is the ultimate expression, not philosophy, not attitude, but living well. Hopefully I'll give you some guidelines that have come my way, translating response to results. Now, just finishing up, make these notes. To get the most out of the 2 days, here's number one. Everybody would agree on number one. Be thankful for what you already have. Guess what you already have? More than the other 99% of the world. You sit in an enviable seat. And we're conducting this seminar in an enviable place. California. Santa Clara. This is an enviable place. Right? America, the place. They're not building rafts to get to Cuba. Right? Everybody wants to come to America. They're not squeezing through the fence to get into another country. Here's what's happening. Everybody wants to come here. Why? This is the enviable place. Nobody has learned better than America how to take advantage of the gifts and the blessings of all the ethnic streams. Nobody's learned it better than we have. And it's made such a contribution to our country. Guess what we're now doing? Taking it back to the world. That's why I go to Russia now to teach capitalism. Is because a lot of the Russians came here along with every other ethnic stream, made us the most powerful nation in the world, the most unique nation in the world. Now we do what? Take our gifts back to the origins. It's going to be incredible. I'm just excited to be part of it. So be thankful for what you've already got. Here's what Thanksgiving does. Opens up the windows of possibility, opens up the door. Appreciation opens the door to receive even more. Here's what closes all doors. Cynicism. You become cynical about the past and cynical about the future and cynical about everybody and even cynical about yourself. That locks up all the doors, closes all the channels and the windows of opportunity and ideas to flow. So if we cancel out cynicism and replace it with thanksgiving for every little thing, every small thing, not just freedom to live in a fabulous country, but every little thing that comes your way, be thankful. And be thankful for what you already know. It brought you here. Living the best life in the top 1% of the people who inhabit the world. So Thanksgiving. Here's the next one. Be eager to learn. I know all of you already know a lot, but be eager to learn the rest. I've learned a lot in my years, but I'm eager to learn the rest. Now I'm trying to capsulize my learning. I'm trying to accelerate my learning, right? Because I don't have a couple hundred years left. So I've got to accelerate my learning curve, especially in the next 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years. And I'm asking you to do the same. An accelerated learning curve to maximize the time to learn as much now in 1 year as you used to learn over 5 years. Just accelerate the curve. Eager to learn. No matter how much you know, you can always learn a bit more. Improve your life, sometimes to a startling degree. Some of the great fortunes of the world were made, what? After someone turned 50, 60. Because now they've got all this experience. Now when an idea comes, they invest 50 years. They invest 60 years in this idea, and it explodes into fortune. So as maturity comes along, what a great time now to come up with good ideas, because now you can maximize their possibilities because of your maturity and what you already know. So be eager to grasp that next idea, because it could explode your health, explode your life. It could start a whole new realm of future for you at dimensions you never even thought of, the next idea, the next couple of ideas. So be eager to learn no matter how rich you are, how healthy you are, where you are. Okay. We in the Millionaires Club invite a billionaire once in a while to come talk to us. And he says, well, you guys are doing okay, but, come on. So no matter where you are, be eager for that next idea. Some of you have been teaching like I have for years and years and years, but be ready for the next idea, because it could explode now your teaching career. It could add new dimensions because of where you are and because of your age and because of your maturity and because of whatever. The next effort you make to get something, no telling what that may add in terms of multiplication in your life and your ability to affect the lives of other people. Amazing. Here's what also I'd ask you to do. Argue later with all the stuff I'm going to cover. Wish we had time to debate every issue, because a lot of this stuff's up for debate. Nobody knows that better than me. And I've been doing my best all these years to debate, my point of view, as well as to listen from the other point of view. But, I would ask you to argue later, because we don't have time to open up discussion for every point that I'm going to cover in the next 2 days. But here's what's important. Debate all major issues. Some issues are fairly sort of obvious. Say, well, I can see the positive side of that right away. But some need discussion. Now, here's what's valuable, to discuss some things with someone else. Debate back and forth. In Israel, one of the great forms of learning is debate. You walk into the classroom, wow, it sounds like confusion, where they get a hold of an idea and one gets on one side and one takes one position, the other one takes the other position, and one says, this is it, and someone says, no, you're mistaken. Here's what you failed to read. Someone says, well, I didn't know that. And then they advance their point of view and say, no, I think you're wrong here. You haven't done your research. How about this, this, and this? The person says, oh, you're right. I didn't do that research. And this verbal debate back and forth goes on in Israel. An Israeli part of learning is this debate. So here's what's important, is to debate the major life issues. In good health today, the great debate is on, which has given us advances we've never had before. So here's what you must be, though, in the debate: a good student. Open to learning, defending and learning. That's what's important, not just to defend, but to defend and learn. Defend your point of view until it's sort of obvious that you've got to give some ground here because you haven't done your research. But this debating is important. We have to debate the health issues. One health book says, do this, you'll live forever. The second health book says, if you do that, you'll die young. So here's what we should do. Make the note, right? Be a student, not a follower. This is important advice. Not to be followers, but to be students. Be no one's disciple except the Lord's. You wind up in Waco, Texas. Be no one's disciple. But be a student. Someone says, well, these two books now have opposing views about health. Here's what you should do. Answer: read both books and make up your own mind. Read both books and see if you can't figure out some way so that it applies to you, maybe drawing from both presentations. Not to follow one or the other, but to draw from one or the other, or maybe both, and develop a plan for you. Here's some of the best advice I've got for you. Make sure what you finally do is the product of your own conclusion. Make sure what you finally do in your financial pursuit, in your health pursuit, in building a good family pursuit, in developing your spirituality. Make sure what you finally do in pursuit of that is the product of your own conclusion, meaning you've processed differing points of view. You've processed what you've learned, matched with what someone is teaching you. Here's what's important. No one voice has all the answers. I certainly don't. I only have my point of view. I only have my perception. But my perception may be valuable. What if I say to you, did you ever look at this from over here? And you say no. So you walk over here where I am and you take a look and you say, wow, I never saw it from over here before. And maybe that look, from my point of view, is an interesting perception. It may reveal something that from over there, looking at it, you missed it. You missed my point of view. Not that my point of view is the point of view, but it is a point of view, right? There's a difference between a point of view and the point of view. I got into sales. One of my first skills, besides I could milk cows, right? When I grew up in farm country in Idaho, but it didn't pay very well. Here's the first skill that revolutionized my life: sales. Learning to present a product and service to the marketplace. I multiplied my income by 5 first year. Multiple skills. So now I got 2 skills: milking cows and making sales. But the skill revolutionized my life. I had never seen that perspective before, of how I could so dynamically affect my income by learning this extra skill. Amazing. So be eager to learn, argue later, but debate, right? Is it for me or isn't it for me? Do I have the temperament? What is the deal? Should I start now and learn, or should I postpone it? What should I do? All of this stuff is very good. Turn it over in your mind till finally you decide. Okay. Next, become a good listener. It is difficult. We live in such a busy time. It's going to be a little difficult to shut everything out for 2 days and just concentrate here. Because our life's out there, right? Our family's out there, and our friends are out there, and our business is out there, and things are going on out there. Things are happening out there, right? And sometimes out there, we get sort of distracted thinking a lot about what's out there. But if you can, to the best of your ability, zero in here, give you the best of your attention that you possibly can. Amazing. Enlightened self-interest. Part of human nature is self-protection. Part of human nature is self-survival. Self-development, so that we can defend ourselves and explore the possibilities in ourselves. Self-interest. Now, here's the big question. Is that okay, self-interest? And here's my best answer. If it's enlightened. If it's enlightened. Otherwise, it turns to selfishness. And here's the unique thing about selfishness. It is not in your best self-interest. We must learn that early. When a little child, grabs something away from another child and is selfish, doesn't want to share it, that is not in your best interest. And at first, it doesn't seem like it. At first, it seems like, no, what's in my best interest is what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine, and right? This whole sort of selfish idea, but this is part of becoming a civilized society, is learning that truly, in the long run, your best interest is served by not being selfish. But here's what we cannot do: deny our own self-interest. But if our self-interest becomes educated, it can be uniquely served so that everyone benefits and no one loses. How could it be possible to work in your own self-interest and still no one else lose? It's very interesting. Let me give you the first idea. The question was asked once, way back. What does it take to be great? What is the key to greatness? And that's a good question for everybody to make a note of. What is the key to greatness? The full development of our potential, because that's really two parts to life, is the full development of our potential and the wise use of all of our resources. You can't describe life, human life, any better than that. The full development of all of our potential and the wise use of all of our resources. That's worth a few books. Just those two sentences is worth several books. Full development of all of our potential and the wise use of all of our resources. But in the development of our potential, the question was asked, how can we be great? Or should we even seek for greatness? Now, the answer was given, how to be great. So it must have been okay. And let me break it down for you. The key to greatness, how to act in your own self-interest, but still not diminish the interest of anyone else. And it's a very simple answer. Now, greatness could be defined in many ways. Great wealth, great power, great influence, great self-esteem, great self-respect. There's many kinds of greatness, but how could we achieve all of that greatness in some measure or ongoing measure? How could we achieve that? Here was the simple answer. It said this: find a way to serve the many. Find a way to serve the many. It is the greatest key to self-interest. Now, at first, it doesn't seem like it, but that's what education is all about, is to take what at first seems to be the best and then find out later, no, that's right, that's not the best. In teaching financial independence to kids, guess what we teach? Someone say, well, what's best now is to spend your money. Say, no, that's what seems to be best. That's what seems to be best. But if you give it a little thought now and attend a couple of classes, guess what you'll learn? That isn't the best. What I first thought was the best turned out, when I was more educated, that wasn't the best. So here's what we teach kids. The best is discipline of your resources. So here's what we teach kids. Do what you have to as quick as you can so you can do what you want to as long as you can. Do what you have to. Save your money. Invest your money. Do what you have to. Conserve your resources. Exercise the discipline now, because then that later leads to many years of self-satisfaction. So that's what education is all about, to turn around what seems to be our best interest and say, no, now I understand that isn't what's best. You got a toothache. You got a cavity in your tooth. What seems to be best is just to neglect and say, oh, well. But here's what's the problem with the cavity. It doesn't get better. So you got to go take care of it. And the dentist says what? You can take care of it now. It only costs this much. Later, it costs this much. So you can pay me now or pay me later. You say, hey, in my own best interest, what? Better to pay up front. Discipline is better up front. Now, so that we can enjoy those later years, to have plenty. So here's what it says. If you wish to be great in all kinds of greatness, have trophies to put on the mantle above the fireplace. If you wish all that kind of greatness, recognition and respect and all of it, here's the key. Find a way to serve. So we might shorten it to read like this. Service to many leads to greatness. Now, at first, that doesn't seem to create personal greatness, serving others. But now when we become educated, we finally find out, yes, that's true. Service to many leads to greatness. Key phrase. If you wish to be ruler over many, now wishing to be great would seem as a statement of your own self-interest, which is true. But we're talking now about enlightened self-interest. Find a way to serve. Now we come to the next one. If you wish to be ruler over many, nothing wrong with that, to be ruler over many. Here's what it says. Be faithful when the amounts are small. To rule over many, be faithful when you have just a few. Someone says, well, if I had a big organization, I'd really take good care of it, but I've only got 3 or 4. I don't know where they are. See, that's not the key. The key is to really know where the 3 or 4 are. Take exceptionally good care of the 3 or 4. Because if you become faithful, if you become disciplined in giving your best attention and the best you've got to the few, now you begin to qualify now to have the many to preside over. The many will come if you pass the test of the few. Someone says, if I had a fortune, I'd really take good care of it, but I've only got a paycheck. I don't know where it goes. See, that's interesting. If we ask you, what about your money? You say, I don't know where it all goes. Well, should we let you run the company? You don't know where it all goes? You says, yeah, my money just gets away from me. Oh, we should let you run the world, right? No. Because if you can't be master over a few pennies, should we give you a fortune? The answer is no way. Let's see what this person does with a paycheck. Then life and opportunity will decide later whether they deserve to double, triple, quadruple their income multiplied by 10. Why multiplied by 10 if you don't do a good job with what it is? So the key to greatness in your own self-interest is find a way to serve. And number 2, be faithful when the amounts are small. Now here's what's exciting. Learning to give is in your own best interest. It doesn't seem like giving something is in your own best interest. But here's what it says. If you wish to receive, and if you wish to receive, we would call that wishing for your own self-interest, wishing to receive. But here's how you receive in your own best interest, and that is to give. If you give, you will receive. And you cannot understand that unless you're educated. From the very earliest moments of being a child, you can't understand that unless you're educated. In fact, here's what it says. It's better to give than to receive. Now, see, at first, that doesn't seem right. At first, but here's what you can get at first. Faked out until you become educated. At first, it seems like it's better to receive than it is to give. And you say, no, you must be educated to understand. It's better to give than it is to receive. Now, here's why. Giving starts the receiving process. Wouldn't that be acting in your own self-interest, is to do something that started the receiving process? And the answer is yes, now I understand. Now I can act in my own self-interest in an enlightened way instead of a destructive way. Next, in your own self-interest, life responds to deserve, not to need. These are some of the most important notes of the 2 days. If you understand this, the rest is probably simple. Life responds to deserve, not to need. Life was not designed to give us what we need. Life was designed to give us what we deserve. Now, not in a moral sense now. This is just in a basic sense. There are certain moral challenges as well, spiritual and moral. But here's what the great law says. It does not say if you need, you will reap. That's not what it says. Someone says, well, I really need to reap. Then you must learn the basic law. And without education, see, you'll be left behind. Here's what it says. In order to reap, you must plant. Guess who deserves to reap? Those who plant. So could I deserve something unique and valuable? Yes, if you understand the law, if you understand how it works in your own self-interest. We must plant, we must give to the soil, we must turn it loose, we must let it do its work, we must have patience, take care of it. Now we deserve the reaping. If you need, you must plant. Next, if you need to find, in your own self-interest, if you need to find, here's what it says, you must search to find. Finding is reserved for those that search. They're the ones that deserve it. Somebody who says, well, this person really needs to find a good idea, then they must go searching. You must go to the library. You must go to the seminars. You must go to the sermon. You must go to and listen to the lyrics of the song. You must go to where education is being taught. You must go to where good ideas are being shared. Go to, go to. Rarely does a good idea interrupt you. Rarely. Good ideas are like mining for gold. You got to develop the mental machinery to go look, go sifting, go searching, go looking. And if you search, what? You will find the promise is there for everyone in their own self-interest. You'll find all you need to find. If you search for it, you'll find everything you need for your health, everything you need for a flourishing lifestyle, everything you need for a good marriage, everything you need to strengthen your friendship, everything you need for economics. You will find if you'll do like you did today. Spend a couple of days searching, taking a look, seeing if someone has some good ideas to share. All things are conditional. God says, I'm an amateur on God, but God says, if you'll move toward me, what? I will move toward you. It's always conditional. Which could also be translated, God says, you don't move, I don't move. You say, well, that's arbitrary. Well, when you're God, you can set it up that way. Remember, your planet, you can rearrange all this. Change it all. But on this one, here's what's interesting. What you move toward tends to move toward you. If you move toward education, education starts to seek you out. This is one of the unique positive mysteries. Whatever you move toward, moves toward you. If you move toward progress, progress seems to want to now embrace you, move toward you. All life seems to wish to reward its benefactor. If you become the benefactor, you'll receive these incredible rewards. If you're the benefactor to the garden, the flowers seem to bloom and say, look at me, look how bright and beautiful I am because you took care of me. I wish to reward you by being beautiful, lovely, spectacular. Your own children, if you become their benefactor, they want to reward you with their progress. I taught my daughters how to swim, right? My daughters would say, and to dive. And my daughters would say, Daddy, watch. Look, watch. Look what you've created here. I mean, you've spent the time with me and, when it didn't go well, now look at me. This is the payoff. Watch me dive. I was their benefactor. Now all life wishes to respond to the benefactor. Those who give their time, give their effort, give their patience, give their ideas, the benefit of their experience. Now, whatever has benefited from that wishes to respond. The crop wishes to grow. The child wishes to show you how much progress they've made. That is so exciting. Okay. Here's the last part on this. In your own self-interest, it's better to pay. Right? It's better to pay than to get it for free. Someone says, I wish I could get it for free. Not really, because for free doesn't make anything of you. Here's a good phrase to remember. I wish to pay fair price for everything, for what it makes of me to pay. For the development I must achieve to be able to pay, that's more valuable than to pay and to receive. Promise is on the other side of price. Should we give you the promise without the price? And the answer is no. That would violate the whole deal. Helping kids to change their vocabulary. A child says, I need $10. Said, that doesn't unlock the vault here. What unlocks the vault? How could I earn $10? Now, see, there's plenty of money here. You just got to use the right language. And the vault comes open. There's the money. There's the door. If you use the right language, part of it is language. We're going to learn tomorrow about financial independence. Part of it's language. Here's what I teach kids, not to have a savings account. It's important not to have a savings account. Here's what's important, to have an investment account. You want an account that pays. I said, oh, I understand. An investment account, not a savings account. An account that pays you interest. So, the magic language around the house for the kids. How can I earn $5? Not I need $5, not give me $5. How could I earn $5? How could I earn $10? Now here's what's important. Even more important than the $10 that achieves the objective is the development, the personal development that comes from being able to pay. Being able to pay is more valuable than receiving. Getting something is never enough. Paying for it, earning it is the real value. If you found a Congressional Medal of Honor, would you wear it? No. Wouldn't you be the ridicule of the country? Wearing a Congressional Medal of Honor that you did not earn? So it's not the medal that's important. It's earning it that's important. Yes, the medal is a sign of respect. Yes, it's a sign of congratulations. Yes, it's a sign of honor. Yes, it's a sign of recognition. But what's important is not the medal. What's important is to know that you have deserved it.